All right. Thank you for joining us, Neil. Very excited to have you. Let's go back to the very beginning. Where'd you grow up, and when did you get started playing basketball?
Well, I grew up in Prince Rupert, and if you follow basketball, the 64 Rainmakers won the provincials, and everybody in Prince Rupert had to play basketball, or they did play basketball. So I went organized basketball in 1965. I was 10 years old, and played in the league there, and just made my way up through the system and played for the Rainmakers. And it's, they complain about single sport kids. I grew up in a single sport town where everybody played basketball. When I tried out in grade 9 for the junior team, there was probably 100 kids tried out for the team, and they could all play. So it's a town where you really didn't get a choice, and it's a fantastic town as far as basketball goes. I was doing some research. There's like 9 guys that went to the same high school as I did that are in the Hall of Fame in BC here. So it's kind of a interesting thing.
That's fantastic. And then, so how were your teams when you played there? And then what was the experience like?
I have the distinct, I was on the first Rainmaker team that ever lost to Terrace. So you could imagine, I'm in the Hall of Shame up there. And, I don't know how many years they played basketball against Terrace, 50, 60 years, and I'm on the first team that lost. But our team was pretty good. I mean, we were ranked in the top 10. I guess there was only one league back then. So.
And so you finished playing, and then you end up going to play after high school. Where'd you go, and what was that experience like?
Well, what happened was I'll be honest with you, I was not a good student, really had no interest in university. And I tried out for the provincial under-19 team. And my ex-high school PE teacher was the coach. So I got through the tryouts, and I got right to the very end. And he said, I can't take you on the team because you're the only guy that's not going to university. So I said, oh, okay, I'll go to university. And he goes, it's not that simple. So Jimmy Ciccone, who was a really good player at Simon Fraser, he said, contact Vancouver College and talk to them. So that's how I ended up going to Langara and playing at Langara.
That's a very interesting thing. We obviously we haven't had U19 provincial teams for quite a while, but through these interviews, the amount of times that U19 provincial teams actually had a huge impact on somebody's life is I think it's like 5 or 6 people already have talked about it. So it's very interesting how impactful it's been on people's careers, yet we don't have that program anymore. So it's an interesting dynamic.
In the day, that was the only team that you could play in after high school. There wasn't a U17 team. It was a U19 team, and that was the one team that the entire province tried out for. A little bit different now with all the clubs that are out there.
So you end up going to Langara. How's the team? Who's the coach? How's it go?
Doug McCallum was the coach. Really good guy. Strict. Our team was pretty good. I mean, Langara in those days won the league every year. There was no competition. I was thinking of things that Dunk did. Like we would come into practice, you had to have your socks pulled up. And those was the days of the long socks. You had to have your socks pulled up and your shirt tucked in. And I was always a bit of a rebel, and I'd not do it. And he'd say, Brown, pull your socks up. Why? Because I said so. And they go, but what's the point? We can pull them down when we're playing. Because I said so. One day, when you coach, you'll understand what I'm saying. And it took me a long time, but I saw him years later, and I said, Dunk, I get it now. So it's kind of interesting.
So you play Langara, and then did you get your teaching degree right away, or did you wait a little bit?
I played at Langara, and then I wanted to move on and try CIAU at the time. But, BC, there's UVic, UBC, and SFU. There was nowhere, there are not 10 schools in BC like it is now. So a friend of mine was playing at Lakehead University, and I grew up with him. and I probably played a million games with him, and he ended up being an All-Canadian that year. So he told the coach, hey, if you're looking for a point guard, I know one out in BC. So I get a phone call saying, hey, do you want to come and play at Lakehead? Typical me, not the greatest geography student in the world. I go, sure. He goes, okay, you're in. I got to go find a map. Where the hell is Lakehead? It's in Thunder Bay. All right, let's go. I had no clue. So I jump on a plane, boom, I'm in Thunder Bay, and played a year there, and it was good. I mean, we had a good squad. I think the highest we got ranked was 5 in Canada. There's some good guys. I played with Jim Zoot, who is all Canadian, played for Detroit Pistons for a little bit. But it's a great experience. I mean, I got to play against guys, Charlie Wise, who was MVP in I think it's called the Big Five in Philadelphia area. And it was good. Martin Riley, got to play against Martin Riley 3-4 times. So it was a really great experience. But the best experience was I realized after all this, you're not very good. I was putting in a lot of time to not be very good. And I sort of thought at the end, hey, this playing is just not for me. I want to stay involved in it, so I'm going to get into coaching. And that was my next move.
So you went into coaching. How'd your teaching come into it, and how did coaching get into it? Where we got started, and how'd that go?
Well, when I went back to Prince Rupert, and my younger brother, pretty good player, they didn't have a coach in grade 8. So I ended up coaching their team. I ended up going on a bit of a holiday the next year, and I came back. I coached them when they were in grade 10. And then I went to UBC, and I took a course with Peter Mullins, which was actually an incredible course. I mean, if anyone was ever into basketball, that would be the course to take. He offered me the JV boys team at UBC, and I held out for more money. And when I went back, he said, sorry, the job's gone. But he said, go see Jack Pomfret. So I did. And the money with Mullins was $1,500 for a year. So when I got the girls' job, it was only $1,000. So I lost that. Plus, I had to do the JV team and be an assistant on the varsity team. So, not that smart when it comes to money deals, that's for sure. So I coached at UBC for, I think it's 3 or 4 years anyway.
All the whole time on the girls' side?
Yep.
And how were you guys as teams back then?
It was when I get the job, and again, I'm mindless. I don't follow it. So I said, well, Jack, how's the team going to be? He goes, well, I think we're going to be better than we were last year. So I said, well, how'd we do last year? We were 0-30. So I said, well, of course we're going to do better. We went 1-29.
There you go.
Thank God for Trinity Western University, because that's the only team we beat. So, I'll be honest with you. I just now decided that we're going to become a good program. And I didn't go to a lot of classes. I just worked out with kids in the gym. And the following year we went 10-19. Then we went 14-16. And then we went 16-14. So it took, 3 years to get a winning season. But again, Canada West is a very tough league to play in.
So back then, to get 30 games, who were you guys playing?
Well, you played home and away 2 games, so you got 2 games with Saskatchewan, and then you'd go to Saskatchewan for 2. So, and then we went to tournaments each year. I can't tell you exactly who we played, but you probably got 20 games in Canada West, and then 9 exhibition games type thing.
So you finish off your 4 years at UBC. What got you to move on to the next spot?
Well, it's a long story again. We were going out to UBC to practice one day, and there was this lineup of students, I'll say a mile long. And I pulled in, it was in the winter complex at UBC. And I said to somebody, what's going on? There's a hiring fair down in the United States. And we went, what? I didn't know anything about it. So I had a key to get in the building. So Kathy and I went through the back door and went in the building, and it was just a chaotic mess. And people were fighting, shoving, because they're all trying to get these jobs. They were stacking resumes. People were sliding the resumes up at the top of the piles. And Kathy went around trying to pass the resumes, and I just sat down, and there was a man at a table. So I just chatted him up, and he was from Southern California, and he was just talking about it. And we were just carrying on a conversation, and Kathy came back, and I made a comment, hey, did you hire any Socials people? And he started laughing, goes, there's literally thousands of you people. Why do you all take the same degree? I go, well, what do you think? It's easy. Why not? Anyway, we're just talking, and he said, oh my God, I forgot. I was supposed to hire a female Socials. Kathy said, I have a degree. He says, you do? You want to go to California? We go, sure, you're hired. Again, we go home, get an atlas out. Where are we going? So we ended up in a town called Victorville, California. And just loaded up the U-Haul, boom, down to California. It was in a desert. I'm thinking we're going to be by the ocean. We were probably 2 hours from the ocean, but it was a fantastic experience.
Well, Victorville nowadays, there's actually quite a few people that live there. Back then, probably not so much.
Oh, it was very small. And, I'm thinking, oh man, I'm a university coach. I'm going to come into town here and set the world on fire. And I wanted to switch back to boys. So I went up to high school, and I didn't know anything about it. I go introduce myself to the coach, and we start talking. And he'd actually won a couple state championships at Victorville High School. And his name was Ollie Butler. And I said, hey, I'd like to join your staff. And he said, well, what can you offer? And we talked and stuff. And he said, I said, I'd like to be your assistant. He goes, my assistant's been with me 28 years. And I said, well, I'll do the freshman team. He said, my freshman coach has been with me for 15 years. And I said, what could I do? He says, you can be the advanced scout. You go find out who we're playing. You write up the reports. And, I just said, that's really, I want to be at practice. I want to work with kids. I want to learn. He says, well, I got nothing for you, but you're welcome to hang out. So I would just go to his practices and walk around with him at practice. And he treated me awesome. I could ask questions. And I said to him, I want to learn to build a championship program like you. And he says, do you want to know the first thing you have to do? I go, no, sweep the floor every day. I go, what the hell's that? He goes, you sweep the floor every day so they know that you're willing to do the lowest job. And they'll work hard for you if you do that. So from then on, I've swept the floor every day, till I quit coaching. And it was interesting walking with him because he would, there's no shot clock then. So he would say, my emphasis is ball control, ball possession. They're practicing. These kids were so good. And he would say, oh, just a sec. And he would stop the practice and just unload on somebody because they didn't catch a ball clean. And he goes, you watch practice now. Boy, that practice was tight. And it was just great to watch him. He explained how to use the school system to get a championship program. I went to the JV practices. I went to the freshman practices. And they kind of showed me how you build a program within a school. All the different things. They got strength coaches there. So I got to go in, learn the strength programs for high school.
What year is this?
Oh, probably, I'm trying to think, my mind's like 85, 6, 7, 8. I don't know.
Okay, so strength coach back then for basketball is pretty rare, I would imagine.
Yeah, but it was not in the States. The size of your gymnasium would be the size of their weight room. And it's phenomenal. And you go in there and they've got, a strength coach, they got assistant strength coach, they've got a physical therapist on staff, so everything is done. And athletics is huge. Our school was fairly big, 2,500, but our football stadium would seat 10,000. Wow. And they would bring in portable stands. So for a high school game, 16,000 people at your high school game. That's a pretty big deal.
Yeah, no kidding. So how long do you end up staying in California?
3-4 years.
And what makes you leave?
My wife, she said, "I'm going back to Canada. Are you coming?" And I said, "Come on, I love this place." It was so, yeah, we would go to UCLA games, USC games, Pepperdine. I mean, we just went to games everywhere. It was so fun. But she said, I don't want to raise my kids in the States. I don't like how they treat people down here. Lots not changed. And
Apparently. So where do you end up going back home?
well, we came back and so we said, let's pick a town to live in. We really, we didn't really have a town in mind. And so we looked at Vancouver again. Housing market was a little high. Went to Surrey. That was high. We ended up in Langley and applied, for a job. They said, well, there's nothing, but you can sub. And a friend of mine was coaching at Mountain Secondary. So he said, hey, I can get you a good deal here if you'll help me coach. So the principal called me in to sub at that school every day, whether I had a class to cover or not. It was kind of, I'd probably get in trouble for saying that. But so I just coached at Mountain Secondary. We had a pretty good squad. Didn't make the BCs, but that was the old Fraser Valley again, where it was huge. And we made it to the final 8, but didn't make the BCs. Partway through that year, I got a call saying, hey, do you want to get a job? Do you want to work at Aldergrove Secondary? There was some trouble. Some teacher got beat up. I don't really know exactly what happened. But I went into Aldergrove, and it was just a fantastic school to go to because it's a little rough, but it was very similar to Prince Rupert. Kids are a little rough around the edge in Prince Rupert. So I went there, and I coached girls my first year. And like I say, that was when I played Danny Gardner's team. And we were ranked number 2 in the province, ended up screwing up, bad coaching, I'll be honest with you. And we didn't go to the BCs. And then the next year, I wanted to implement what I had learned in California. So you have to start young. So I have to start with the grade 8s. And I couldn't make my mind up whether I wanted to coach boys or girls. So I said, I'll coach both teams. So I coached grade 8 girls and grade 8 boys. And I had a good squad. The boys, Nor and, Veal and the boys. That was my first grade 8 team.
Your first team, you step into that group.
Yep. But
Goodness.
Again, they weren't as good as they turned out. And I coached the girls team, which was better.
Oh, really?
And we end up, I don't think neither team lost a whole lot. And now we go to the Fraser Valleys, and they both play at the same time. So it's like, who are you going to coach? So I got parents on this end, on my case. And I ended up asking people to help me. No one would help. So I had to get my wife, who was coaching at West Wally at the time. I said, could you come out and coach the girls? And that didn't go over well. The girls were total, mad. I abandoned them. And we went to the, Fraser Valleys, did our thing, and ended up having to make a decision. So I switched to the boys. And, you mentioned, well, these guys were pretty good. Yeah, they were pretty good. But we joke about it. 3 of the best players, you've never heard of them because they didn't make it because they were in jail by grade 9.
Oh, really?
And you're right. And we were laughing about that, saying, man, imagine if those guys still play, because they were some big kids, 6'2" guys that were really good, but they were really bad characters. So they ended up doing their own thing. And I coached the boys after that, and it took those guys right through. So I got to implement all the things that I had learned in California. And I maybe I'm lucky, but what we did, implementing all the things I learned from Butler and some of my own stuff, and we just progressively got better and better and better to where we're the best team in BC. And I try to joke to people saying it's not that hard to build a really good team. building a really good program is super hard. So after I had done that, my wife said, we had 2 kids by then, Christina and Jesse, and my wife said, hey, is there any time in the near future you're going to help me parent these kids? And I said, yeah, sure. And you asked Randy and the guys, I would have to bring Christina to practice because she was mine. So I would put a list on the board, 6 till 6:15, Chris Veal, Randy Norris, 6:15 to 6:30. And they had to deal with her as part of the practice. And they went, well, what if she cries? I go, then get her out of the gym. Go cry somewhere else. And so I tried to say, well, if you can't do it, get a girlfriend. Get your mom down here. So mom started to come to practice and take my kid and deal with it. And when I finished coaching, my wife said, actually, Christina said something that shocked me. She said, Dad, I want to play for you one day, but I can't. And she would be so really young, I don't know, 3 or 4 years old, whatever. And she said, I want to play for you, but you don't have girls basketball at Aldergrove. So I got to go play at West Wally. And I went, well, what are you talking about? She goes, well, you don't have girls. But I had never taken her to a girls' game. She had only seen boys play. But when she went with my wife, she saw the girls play. And my wife said, I'm going to let you keep coaching, but you're going to switch to girls. So our daughters have role models. And I went, yeah, okay. So I ended up switching to girls. And that's when I had Darcy Arsini and those kids at Aldergrove, and we're pretty.
So hold on a second, you're missing some stuff. So how'd your teams do when you were on the guy side? Tell us about it.
Oh well, we're pretty good. I mean, we were ranked grade 10. When they're grade 10, we're ranked number 1, and we sort of came out of no one really knew much about us, and of course, we didn't make the provincials, which another one of my famous strong teams don't make provincials, and but there were some injuries, some stuff happened. But these kids, very good players. So we ended up winning the provincials when they were in grade 11, AA boys. And then when they were in grade 12, that was the big thing. People say, well, you should go AAA. And we put it to a vote. I convinced them. And it wasn't really a vote, let's be honest. And I wanted to make a statement that you can stay in your tier and you can still be the best team in the province. And I took some flack for it, and I said some stupid things. It got me in trouble, which not unusual for me. But we were the best team in the province, bar none. I mean, Richmond was number 1 in the province. We beat them. And the 4 teams that were in the finals, like the team that won it that year, Ladysmith, we beat by 51. So, I mean, we were good. I mean, we just had some really strong kids.
It's funny you said, Randy is a very unique guy because you watch him. I remember when he was at UBC. I'm not old enough to see him before UBC, but I saw him at UBC coaching, and I thought that his attitude kind of transferred to the team. I thought his toughness kind of went to the kids, and I thought they got the most out of the situation because he was actually he kind of coached with grit kind of deal, and it's interesting because you obviously have a lot of kids that you coach, but I think he's definitely maximized on his potential as a player from what I've heard, but also I thought he did a fantastic job as a coach as well.
Well, the kid is he's a winner at every level he's been at. I mean, he won 2 provincials in high school, 2 provincials for at Langara in the CCAA. He won 2 nationals at Langara, and then he went to St. Francis Xavier and won 2 nationals with them. I mean, he was MVP in Canada twice. And I always say he's an example. I always say he's an ordinary guy that did extraordinary things. And if you watch him in a weight room, I mean, the guy could bench press huge amount of weight. And what we tried to say was, strength negates height. If you're strong, you don't need to be. So one of the things I had learned through coaching California, so I had Nor and those guys as a class for 5 years. So I have my basketball team, as a class for 5 years. That's what they did in California. And the admin let me run one. So I could do my strength training. I could do my conditioning. I could do my agility, my speed training, all in a PE class. So when we went to practice, I only focused on basketball now. So we didn't run a lot of set of lines or anything like that, because we do all that during school time. So it was a huge advantage for us. But Nor, he's just the toughest guy. We used to laugh. Nor had, he's a great.
I like literally, you can tell. You can just tell by looking at him.
All of our kids were quite strong kids. Like if you went in there, a lot of them are bench pressing in high school, 250, 280. Some of the guys could bench 300. That's a lot of weight for not real big guys. But, Nor just bought into it, and he has a natural leadership ability. I hear coaches say, do you train leaders? Do you make leaders? Or how did you get these leaders? I'm a believer that you're a natural born leader, that you have it. And one of the things that we talked a lot about was allow leaders to lead, allow coaches to coach. And there's a great video out that, I showed my kids every year. It's called like The First Follower. I don't know if you can YouTube it or Google it now. And it's some crazy guy dancing at a rock concert. I don't know, he's probably high or something. But all of a sudden, one person joins him, then 2, then 4, then 10, then there's thousands doing it. So we said to the kids, you don't have to be the leader. Be a good follower. And those kids allowed Nor to be a leader. And he was just good at it. He didn't abuse it. And he just got those kids all playing at a level that other kids just couldn't or didn't want to play at that level. But the kid is the leader. That's all I can say.
So you were talking about Veal there. So Veal was a pretty good player himself?
It's funny. We keep in touch. We have I don't know, that WhatsApp app or whatever it is where our team is on there. And I got a question the other day from Corey Urick. Who is better, me or Veal in grade 8? And so I got to go with, well, Veal was better in grade 8 and you were better in grade 9. Nor was the better one in grade 11. Maximum, then Nor was the best in grade 12. And they go back and forth. These guys are 40 some years old and they're arguing about who was the best when they were 15 or 14,
That's funny. So you end up, you're coaching there. Your teams are very good. And then what happens? Where do you go from there?
I lived in Brookswood. And
you know what? Actually, I have another question. How come you and your wife are never at the same school?
When we came back, she knew administrators in Surrey.
People just liked her better, or what happened?
Well, she's a far nicer person. You've met her.
I know, clearly. Yeah, no, that's why I said it.
But she knew administrators in Surrey, and I had a connection in Langley. So she phoned up her connections, and they said, come on in, I'll give you a job. So she got a job in Surrey, I got a job in Langley. So we've always just stayed apart that way. The only time we coached together, when Christina was maybe grade 4, we started taking her across the border. And I couldn't be there all the time because I had tournaments and stuff. So my wife became, the club, South Langley club coach. And she doesn't get enough credit. We won, I don't know, 11 provincial championships at Brookswood. She probably responsible for like 6 or 7 or 8 of them. She got the kids going at a very young age, and we got to take them, as they came up. So.
Yeah. And so, okay, so you're at Olive Grove. What happens after Olive Grove?
Well, I wanted to, so we show, in my own mind, we showed how to build a championship team, but now I wanted to build a championship program. And, let me be honest here. It's easier to get kids to switch schools and go to Brookswood than it would be to switch and go to Aldergrove. And it wasn't that we were recruiting them, but we could build a better program so that it would attract kids to come to it. and I felt Brookswood would be a better deal. So there was a guy teaching at Brookswood who lived in Aldergrove, and I was teaching at Aldergrove and lived in Brookswood. So we just got together and said, hey, you want to switch jobs? So he went there and I went there, and he built championship rugby programs and soccer, which he couldn't do at Brookswood, and I got to go in and do basketball. So it was a great start because they had some okay teams at Brookswood, I think young, but they never went to the Fraser Valleys. I don't think they'd been to the Fraser Valleys. So he got to go in, and I got lucky. You know, my first group that I get there, I had Danica Boy, Sarah Cameron, so they could play there in grade 8. But I coached a youth team, grade 7s, but on that team I had Sasha McKinnon, Candace Morissette, Kelsey Adrian, Danielle Laurie. So I had all those kids. So I was doing a grade 7 team and a grade 8 team. So then when they came up, I coached grade 8 and I coached junior. So I could run my own system with both levels. And that's the key to it. Your grade 8 coach can't run this system and then you bring them up the next year and say, okay, everything you learned, let's change it.
And one of the great things that Brian Lee's done at Semiyama is the kids have run the same plays they ran 6 years ago.
Yeah, and what I get to do is layer everything, and then we take it down. At Aldergrove we called them little dribblers, and we had the same program at Brookswood, and you get kids. We brought it down to grade 3. So I get to start teaching them what I want them to do in grade 3. And I bring them right up. When they come in grade 7, those kids can play. You know, so they come in grade 8 and they can play. But we've also taken them across the border for 3-4 years. So these kids have played a lot of basketball. So when they go up against somebody, Argyle, the kids never played down the States. Our kids have played, 150, 200 games across the border.
Yeah.
So they could play. And I try to say to people, if you're going to, now it's a lot different because there's so many leagues to play in down there. And so the level has dropped quite a bit. But we went down and we did not win games, I think 6 years of taking kids down there. We didn't win a game. And then we won one game. And we actually cheated. We brought a grade 7 kid to play on our grade 6 team because we were short. She had 2 foul shots. We won the game. We won one game in 6 years.
You go to Dairy Queen, straight to Dairy Queen?
Straight, man. I treated everybody. You can get a chocolate dip one. But, and there, again, it's like I don't know, what's that show? The dog whisperer guy on TV. He says, so we rehabilitate kids and we train adults. That's what I tried to do. Because you go down there and parents are going, I thought you could coach. How did you win provincials? Dude, you just lost by 93. I go, yeah, don't panic. We'll do okay. And I had parents wanting to get out of our group, go somewhere else because we couldn't win games. But I try to explain to them where we're playing is the relevant thing. And, the Sasha McKinnon crew, we went down there and we got just slaughtered. We were playing the team Bellevue Stars, and we lost. We didn't get the ball across center in the first half. They pressed the crap out of it. We weren't good enough. So we went into halftime and I said, look, you're doing a great job. They kind of look at me and go, what? And I said, when we get that ball across center, you cheer like we won the Olympics. You got it? Then we go back out there, the team doesn't press us. So I call a timeout right away. I go down and say, hey, coach, could you press us? And he said, are you crazy? You're the worst team we've ever seen. So I said, I know, but I think we're going to get it across center. So he goes, okay. And we go out there, he presses, we turn it over 20 times. We get it across, the gym erupts. The fans, everybody, parents, and we're dancing, the kids are dancing on the bench because we cross center. And down there, if you foul somebody when they're shooting, because it's running time games, they just give you a point. and we lost 82-2, and we got fouled on a shot, so we never made a basket, and that probably included the warm up too. But on that team, you got Kelsey Adrian played at UC Berkeley, Sasha McKinnon played at Utah, Candice Morissette, MVP in the tournament, UBC. Danielle Laurie, MVP softball. We had great kids, and it just took a while. But that team went back, and we went into basketball BC U13, and the parents are going, "Oh, we're going to get killed." We won the provincials, and they go, "How are we so bad?" I go, "No, we're not bad. It's bad up here." So we're learning. And every team that we brought down there got slaughtered, but every team won the U13 provincials.
So, when I just got started coaching, I went and watched your Brookswood team play in the provincial final. I remember Sasha McKinnon going 12 for 12. It's been, I don't know, it's got to be 17 years. What year did she graduate?
2004, maybe, or 5.
Yeah, so maybe my second or third year coaching. She was 12 for 12. She had the perfect stat line. The stats, they were perfect. And I remember watching Candace run the show. I sat right behind your bench, so I just watched the whole thing.
Well, Sasha McKinnon, a lot of people, the kids that went down the States and played, I think we've had 10 kids go down D1. And Sasha McKinnon would have been the worst athlete of them all. If you saw her in grade 7, you would laugh. She'd Bambi. She couldn't run. She'd fall down, couldn't stop, no balance, and a goofy kid. And all of a sudden, she decided she'd get serious about it. So when the gym's open in the morning, she's in every morning at 7 o'clock. And she just developed into a shooter. And it just progressed and progressed and progressed. And she made the junior national team. So, a lot of people say, well, I don't have the genetics to make teams. Sasha McKinnon didn't have the genetics to be a good high school player. And yet she played national teams and played, down the States for 4 years. So she's a real success story. I love that kid.
Well, we had Bruce on the other day, and he was talking about what their program used to do, time-wise in the gym, and it was an extraordinary amount of time. And you just just listening to what you said so far. So essentially, playing in your program when you guys were good, it was morning shooting optional, but not really. Is that?
The truth? It's optional. But it's optional whether I let you play or not.
So you had morning shooting, then you had basketball class where you did the strength and conditioning. You did that at Brookswood as well?
Yep. And
then 2 hours of basketball practice?
Yep.
So kids were, I pretty much, they were doing 5.5 hours a day every day, correct?
Yeah. And what we did at Brookswood, because we're building the program, I would have a senior team PE, I'd have a junior team PE, and a grade 8. So I've got every basketball kid in the school in my classes. So I can train them. And again, what you learn in grade 8 in your PE class builds for your junior class. And what you learn in junior goes to your senior class. So, I had all the basketball kids in the school for the girls under my control. So it was easy to do. And then summertime, we opened the gym 6 to 8 at night every day of the summer. And you come in, and there's coaches there. Some nights, one night was kind of funny. We had 6 coaches sitting there ready to work with kids. One kid showed up, and I think that kid said, "I'm never going in again," because everybody took 20 minutes with her, and she was just exhausted. But we had 2 shooting machines. We set them up. We had rebounders, and the kids just work hard, and hey, we can all get good at something if we stuck around.
Yeah, you got to spend the time. So Candace was also one of the great ones I like watching. But I remember Kelsey Adrian as a young player. I think I watched her play in grade 9. What an unbelievable player that she was at that time. Talk about, she probably in high school as a grade 9, she was probably one of the best in the history of the province. Would you say?
Yeah, Kelsey Adrian was an interesting one because she was I guess genetically she's good. I mean, she's a big, tall kid in grade 8, and her dad was a counselor at school, so he wasn't used to getting up in the morning bringing kids in, but he got up for 5 years to bring his daughters in the morning. So she would work every morning, and she got into the provincial program. So I think she played provincial. They had more teams in those days: U15, U16, U17. So she got picked up by Alison McNeil's and stuff. So she started working with them, but she's a real combination of she's a smart kid, genetically gifted. So yeah, she was good.
So now, throughout your coaching career, talk about some adversity that you had to deal with to get you through to the next level, and that you kind of had to overcome it.
Well, when I said you have to rehabilitate the kids and train the parents, it's true. And there was so many times we have to have parent meetings about, what we're trying to do. Like, parents will complain. Ask your parents, sit down and ask your parents to name the best 5 kids on your team. They'll name their daughter and the best 4. And 8 parents will give you that. Very few of them are honest about it. Or maybe they are being honest because that's what they see. And it's hard to get parents to buy in. So what I try to say to them is, I will treat everybody equally. Come in the morning. I will guarantee I will work with you every morning. I can't guarantee you're going to be any good, but I guarantee you I'll give you my best effort. You give your best effort, and we'll see where it lies. And some people, just buy right into it. Louise Forsyth, I don't think she missed a morning. A lot of kids, they just do not miss. Other kids, they would come in half the time. So if they didn't play, I would say, I don't have the confidence in your daughter because I don't see it. But when I'm there every morning and I see somebody, what they do, I can correct them, work with them. I do get the confidence. So when they get in and play, that's all I can say to the parent. But the hardest thing is when how do I say this one? Like, I had a team that there was a lot of good players, but not Christina's team when they were in grade 12. We were ranked 1, 2 in the province, and the parents were all caught up in who's getting letters from universities, who's getting this, and they would lie to each other in the stands about what letters they got, and this is my interest, and then they come to me and how is she getting interest and I'm not, and I try to say, I don't think they got a letter. I think they're lying to you. This is what parents do. So this will sound funny. I came home, I said to my wife, pick a state. So she picks Montana. I said, north, south, east, west. And she picked the direction. I don't want to say where. And so I look it up. Yes, there's a university named that thing. I email them and say, my name's Neil Brown. I'm the coach of Brookswood Secondary. We've won some provincials. I've got a center. Her name is Sassy. And I made up that's my dog's name. And I said, she's like an old hound dog chasing that ball. No ball gets by Sassy. She is the absolute best. And I got a cat quick point guard. Her name is Abby, fake name. And Abby was my cat's name. I get a letter back from them saying, we've heard about these players. Can you send us some game film on them? So I photocopied all that my cat and dog got a recruiting letter, and I gave it to all the parents. And I said, that's how hard it is to get a letter. So they kind of slowed down a little bit there, but the jealousies in the program are very difficult to deal with. The Aldergrove, the Aldergrove boys were the best. There was really so little bit of jealousy with those kids. Girls, far more.
Yeah, I think, I don't know, maybe it's a guys thing, maybe it's a girls thing, I'm not really sure, but I know on our guys team when I played, we knew who the best players were. We maybe didn't like them, like everybody, but you always knew, like, at the end of the game, you want this person to have the ball and they need to shoot if you want to win. Like, it was fundamental. Like, we knew who the best player was, and it was like they need the ball, and if they get the ball, we got a better chance of winning, and that was all that really mattered. And so it's kind of different, but maybe it's just different groups. Maybe it's just different groups. I don't know.
Yeah. Like I've had, when you have a team that the 12th player is really not as good as the 1 and 2, but not bad, that causes problems. When your best player is Ace Koenig, and then the jealousy is not as much. So when you have a team that's like the team I had some teams at Brookswood that were, the 12th man got a scholarship or scholarship offer in basketball. Even Jesse's team that won the provincials, every kid on that team got a scholarship offer. Some of them didn't take it. But, when you got every kid 12 kids on the team get a scholarship offer, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So you end up coaching at Brooks. The program ends up being very good. You end up taking some time away from the girls program. You go to the guys program. You actually have a couple good guys teams, ironically, at Brookswood.
Well, that one I had a falling out with some parents, and there was, I don't know, I don't want to really get into it, but I mean, there's some threats made, and I go, good, I'll solve that one. See ya. And I had the boys. I work with the boys in the morning too. It's not like but everyone comes in, wants help, I'll work with you. So Brent Malish was a really good guy player. So I'd work with him in the morning. And so I just got into coaching them. And yeah, the rest is sort of like, we went to the provincials twice, which is kind of odd because I just sort of slid in and we go to the provincials. But I mean, we had Graham Bath.
Some good players for sure. Yeah, guys go play at university. It was pretty good. And then you end up coming back to girls to coach your own kids. So talk about that experience of coaching your own kids at that level of competition.
Well, it's hard to coach your own kids. Like Christina, not as good of a player as Jesse, but a far better teammate than Jesse. Very different type of kids. We had worked with our kids, Christina's team, grade 4, grade 5, grade 6, grade 7. Now I get to pick them up in grade 8. So those kids can all play. And same with Jesse. Christina, far easier to work with because she was not the best player on the team. She fit in, she starts some games, more all-rounded player. So there's not the problem. Jesse, on the other hand, is the best player by quite a bit. And that creates issues because, here's a kid putting up, 30 shots in grade 8 and people are going, share the ball. I'm kind of going, gym's open every morning to share. Come on in. So that created some bit more issues, but it's fun, but it does cause problems. Let's be honest. We didn't lose many games with those kids in DC here. So, for all the years I coached my own kids, we didn't lose probably 15 games between the two of them. But with down the States, it's tougher. And when you lose games, 80 points, 60 points, 50 points, a 40-point loss was a good day. And sometimes it's hard talking to your kid about it. And all she wants to do is go to the Dairy Queen. And I wanted them to take the game far more serious than they did at a young age. And, that caused problems. But my wife is the buffer. And she knows when to say, calm down or just shut up and drive. So my wife was a good buffer.
Yeah,
but it's hard.
You definitely need that fast to happen. I think
it's hard when you I always say to the kids, I'm gonna teach you to believe in yourself. And that's not that hard, I'll be honest with you. Now I have to make you believe you're better than you are. And then when you do that, now I got to make you believe you could be great. And some can buy into that and take it to that level. Others just go, hey, this is way too hard. I'm fine. I'm happy who I am. But it's a case of always pushing somebody to get better and better and better. And that's not always a steady climb. you can have your downtimes, but I always felt my job was to get kids to believe in themselves and to really become great. And I mean, we we won a fair bit. We won a few provincials. We've got, I think we had 8 kids make national teams. I think we had 10 kids play. But Veal and I one day were sitting in the gym. No kids showed up that night or whatever, and we went through all the banners and we're trying to see who was on that team and how many kids have played post-secondary. And we were something like 55 kids have played post-secondary. That's a lot for one school.
Totally.
Getting 4 or 5 kids a year playing post-secondary, so that's pretty good.
It's funny, when I went back to STA and I coached. We ended up losing the provincial final and in overtime. And so obviously when you do that, you think about it for quite a bit. And I remember saying to myself, like, you kind of let a couple of these kids off the hook by not pushing them harder. And and it was by far the best teams ever in the history of the school. Even now, with all the talent that they had the last couple of years, they still never, did what we did when we were there. But it's kind of talk about the balance between pushing as hard as you can, and then kind of knowing when you kind of need to take it easy, and then how you figure out what that balance is.
One of the things we don't really talk a lot about winning. I'll be honest with you.
Yeah.
We talk about, the winning takes care of itself. But when we get to, we call them banner games, and that's a Fraser Valley or a provincial. So we say, it's the banner game. This is history, because nobody, well, some people put them up, but we don't put up, we were second place in the province. We were third place in the province. There's one. And we call them banner games, and we make jokes about it. Say when you're 60 years old and you can't run anymore, you're going to bring your granddaughters in here and you're going to say, Grandma played on that team in 2004, and you can brag about it. But you don't bring her in a gym and there's no banners up there. So we really push that whole thing about your history, your legacy, the memories you will have about, the championship programs you played on. And I think we were talking the other day, Viola and I think pretty well every kid that we've had at Brookswood played on a provincial championship team, except I must say the last couple of years. But everybody won a grade 8 provincials, or they won a junior provincials, or they won, like, I think we've got 6 AAA provincials. So every kid has played on a provincial championship team, which is very unusual for, a 20-year run at a school. So
sure, the last couple of years, you had 2 very, very special players. Talk about what it was like to have Forsyth and Ace on your teams, and kind of what they did to kind of translate it to the next level.
Well, Louise Forsyth is, it's hard to explain to people how committed that kid is to her game. Whether or not she's too focused. I always accused her of being too focused and too into it, take a day off. But, I met Louise when she was in grade 3. And her mom would say, oh, this is Coach Brown, because I coached Linda at UBC. And she would say, this was my university coach. And they would always say, Louise is going to come and play for you. And I go, yeah, well, I'm out in Langley or whatever. And they go, oh, that's okay. We'll move to Langley. So sure enough, grade 7, they move out to Langley. And here's this skinny little gangly kid. And she starts working out with grade 12s and stuff. And she gets the crap beat out of her. But she never backs down. She keeps going. And when we did any kind of physical training, Lou's a beast. So she could run further than these kids. She could run faster than these kids, do stuff. And she came in grade 8 and she said, I want to play in the senior team. And I'm going, yeah, I don't think so. And so I said, well, Kelsey Adrian didn't play in grade 8. I don't think. No, I'm going to play. Okay. And she came, she got the crap literally beat out of her every day in practice. Didn't get to play a whole lot. Fortunately, we were up, a lot of games, so she would get some minutes. But she just sat there, worked hard, came in every morning and worked. And same thing, grade 9. She got to play a little bit more. And then grade 10, but she has this drive that she just wants to be, an excellent player. And again, are there players like Nor is like that? Maximu is a bit like that. Christina Van Aert, Darcy Arsini, McKinnon. But, when you've coached hundreds of kids, you can name 6 or 7. There's a lot of kids that don't have that drive. So Lou got, start believing in herself. She make provincial teams, and she ended up making a junior national team. Just a really good player. And she's one of my favorite kids. But Ace, Ace is just a special kid. I don't know if did you ever work with her at all in anything?
No, I remember when she was in grade 7 or 8, she played in a senior spring league. And I was like, oh, you got a nice team. How old are these kids? I haven't seen them. And their dad was like, oh, we're in grade 7 and 8. I'm like, excuse me? I was like, oh, wait, they're going to be pretty good. And I remember she went to Best for a little bit, and then she played junior as a grade 8, and we face guarded her, and because we had no option. We were going to lose. We had one of the better junior teams in the province, and we were going to lose because this grade 8 kept scoring. And it was kind of funny. So, I never got to directly coach her, but I got to watch a lot of her play, and it was definitely impressive for sure.
See, I didn't know that about her. Like I don't really spend a lot of time following the kids. So Brett Westcott was over at the house one day, and he said, hey, Basketball BC's having a thing up at Trinity Western. Let's go up and watch. So we went up to watch, and there was this new kid. And I said, like, who is that? And he didn't know. We didn't, we just watched. And we're sitting there, and this guy comes up and says, hey, you Coach Brown? I go, yeah. He says, hi, I'm Frank Koenig. And that was my first time I had met Frank. So he said, you're at Brookswood, blah, blah, blah. Tell me about your program. So I tell him, and he said, hey, we're living down in Washington, and we're going to come back, and we'd really like to consider, coming to Brookswood. So I said, yeah, go enroll. If you're in the school, I'd love to coach your kid. And, I didn't talk to him again. I saw him at a tournament down in Oregon City, but just one day they walk in the gym and they go, yeah, we're coming to Brookswood. I go, okay, let's get to work. And yeah, let's be honest, the rest is history. The kid is a fantastic player, great leader. And, she was a grade 10, I guess, when she came in. And it's kind of funny because Frank, Frank.
Yeah.
Frank's a good guy, but he says to me, play your cards right. You're going to win 3 provincials in a row. And I go, yeah, you're a typical parent that dreams. But he was right, and Frank is a pretty astute basketball guy.
Oh, yeah.
But, Ace, Jessie was in grade 12 when Ace was in grade 10. And, she's doing her thing. And there was times where I had to say to her, Jessie is the best shooter in the province. Do you understand that? She goes, yeah, get her the ball. Because Ace would come down and she passed over here. Some kid would have a better shot than Jessie, but Jessie shooting the shot is a better shot because she's going to make it. So I said, when Jessie's open, you get her the ball. You understand? Yep. And Jessie set crazy records for made threes. And she goes, my God, playing with Ace is just like heaven. And Ace just makes people better. She's like that. And then, she goes in grade 11 and everyone starts to grow. Taylor Jackson grows into a player. Forsyth comes into her own. And I think we won 3 in a row. But Ace is just a special kid, and again, that Nor and Ace, they're the 2 best basketball players that I've coached, and they're the 2 best leaders that I've ever coached. And again, I don't think there was much I did to say, here's what a leader does, here's this or that. They that's who they are, and like Nor runs a successful business. He's a leader. Ace will be, whatever the hell she decides to be, she will be super successful at it. But she's a
Well, it's kind
special
of
kid.
funny that you had one of them at the very beginning of your career, and you had one of them at the very end of your high school coaching career. It's kind of interesting that that's how it worked.
Yeah, Ace, like I went back to North Carolina in Ace's grade or in her junior year, and it's crazy. I mean, you travel around, you get to go to pretty good games, but to be in North Carolina and go to games is crazy. And when Ace would come over, before the game, I was with a buddy, and she would talk to us about, whatever the game, whatever. And people would come up to us and say, "How do you know her?" I say, "Oh, I coached her in high school." And they'd say, "Really? I've got center court seats right on the floor. Do you want them?" And they go, "What's up?" He goes, "Well, man, if you trained her, you're the reason she's here, and we want to give you these seats." And I go, "Yeah, sure." Uh, People would come up, and there was one time where this man comes up. He says, "Excuse me, I don't want to bother you, but I see you know Ace Koenig." I go, "Yeah, how do you know her?" Explain it. He says, "Do you think you could introduce my daughter to her?" And so Ace comes over, and I say, "Hey, Ace, see that guy over here? His daughter wants to meet you." Ace is so cool. The kid comes over.
She
The
was
kid
always cool. Yeah.
crying. Ace has a towel around her neck. So she says to the kid, "Here's a towel, because you're such a great fan. And, without you, I can't do this." The kid's crying. I'm tearing up. It's just so cool.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think you had. Oh my goodness. Bruce had some very, very high level players, and then she was probably right in that caliber of player. And at Utah, they made the Final Four, and they did their thing, and they won. And then she goes out and wins the ACC championship this year. And it would have been interesting to see how they would have done in the tournament. It's kind of unfortunate she never got the opportunity to play in the tournament because their team was coming on strong, and she was playing her best ball of her career. So it would have been cool to see for sure.
I went to Hawaii, and her team was playing in Hawaii in October. And it's so interesting to watch. Like Ace, when she was here, is a good athlete. I mean, she got Defensive Player of the Year, and let's be honest, nobody could stay with her.
No.
And when you're down there, all of a sudden you go, "Yikes, she's not as good of an athlete as I remember." And yet and I use this, I said, she uses her brain to beat faster people. Like to see her keep a defender off balance. Like she never got in a rhythm ever, because she never allowed a defender to put her in a rhythm where they could dominate her. And shot fakes, pass fakes. These stud athletes, she just has them off balance the entire game. And I'm trying to think, I must have taught her that. I didn't teach her that. That's who she is.
Yeah.
Because if I could teach that, every kid would have done that. But she's just so smart. And again, Nor was an extremely smart basketball player. So it's just, genetic.
Sometimes you also get it right. Like I remember watching Gilbert Arenas, ironically, courtside one time, and it looked like he was going half speed. But the way he played with his balance and his shiftiness, he made that people playing defense on him look like they were going a quarter speed, and it worked for him. And so, I mean, seeing Ace have such a nice finish to her career was kind of cool for me, just as somebody who's around basketball for so long. So let's finish this off by going back. Young Neil Brown, if you could change one or two things and make a couple adjustments, if you go back in time, what would you tell young Neil Brown he needs to take a look at?
Well, when I was in grade 10, I don't know about you, but we were never, like Bobby Knight is, I'll call him my mentor coach. I've met him a couple of times, gone back to Indiana, but he is just a brilliant coach. He's not maybe the nicest man on earth, but he's a brilliant coach. And he said, like, basketball's the most under-taught, over-coached game there is. And I didn't understand what that meant. But when I started to get into the game, like when I was in high school, we never were taught the game of basketball. We were coached in the game of basketball. And when I was in grade 10, Ken Shields came back to Prince Rupert, another Prince Rupert guy, and he was working with Mel Bishop and some of these guys. And, Shields said, Brown, get over here. And I started working with them. And he just went off on how bad I was and how I didn't understand anything. I was lazy. So he tried to teach me how to play basketball. And I was reluctant, I'm going, come on, there's a game over there. I want to go play. But I learned how to, one summer, he taught me how to play, and then I forgot about it. But I wish if I could go back that I had teachers of the game of basketball, and that's what I try to do. I think I spend a lot of time teaching basketball, a lot of one-on-one stuff, rather than coaching. I'm a far better teacher of basketball than I am a coach of basketball. Like our games, it might look like I'm coaching. I'm not. I mean, they're on cruise control. And when I was a young man, I never really was taught the game of basketball. So I wish if I went back that I could be taught how to play.
Uh-huh.
And I think that's something that we have a problem that we don't teach. I mean, when I started getting into coaching, post play, here I'm a coach at UBC, and I don't know much about post play. Where would I learn it? So I go, well, who's the best post coach in the province? Pat Lee. He's out at Aldergrove. Man, I get hold of Pat. He's doing camps. I go work his camps for free. And I say, I need to learn how to post play. And I spent 2 summers with Pat learning post play. And, he teaches you how to play the post, and then you actually go play. It's not, okay, you're in the post, throw the ball, let's go. Pat broke down where your arms were, where your hands were, how your feet were positioned, where your head was, where everything was. And, I learned a lot from Pat. And that's something that I think we need to do far more of in this game, is teach kids, what, how to play the game, where instead I think we're teaching what to play. Like, here's a great offense, let's go do it. It's not the offense that wins. It's the offensive players that win. So, I mean, if I could go back again, I would be serious. But again, I would be more serious in school. I'll be honest with you. I just hung out at school. I'm smart enough to get through. And that's how I did my life. And again, I would probably, if I went back, I would get a little more serious with school.
Yeah. I mean, funny you say that. I feel the exact same way. I mean, I'm trying to get a kid to go to Harvard or Stanford at some point that I'm coaching. We'll see how that goes. One day maybe.
Well, I mean, when Ace, I know with Ace, it was down to North Carolina State or Stanford. And, we talked about it. She says, I'm going to go to North Carolina State. And, I'm going, what? And, I'm Stanford, blah, blah, blah. But then when I went back to North Carolina and I met the coaches, I mean, she made the right decision. I mean, it's a fantastic place. And I'm sure Stanford is too. But that was just the right spot for her. And she made a great decision. So the rest is history.
Well, thanks for joining us today, Neil. I think you broke the all-time record for longest interview we've ever done. So congratulations.
I like talking.
Somebody's still listening.
I like talking basketball. So
no, it's good. I'm the same thing with you, so that's why we lasted so long. Well,
anyway, I want to thank what you do for basketball. I don't think you get enough credit for what you do, and Langford, your sidekick, or if he's the boss, I don't know which one's the boss. I mean,
one or the other. Yeah, it's one or the other.
You guys work with your teams as hard as anybody does. Then you do clubs, you do community stuff, so I admire what you guys do. You're the real leaders out there in basketball right
now. Well, it's funny because when you're growing up, you have somebody, it's kind of different now, but back when I was growing up, we had coaches who it's all they did, right? It was their thing. They spent their time in the gym. They got you in the gym. When I was in grade 7, grade 6, our elementary school teachers were in the gym all the time, and they kind of forced you to be in the gym. And You know, when I got older, the coaching wasn't nearly as good, and it wasn't as consistent, and it wasn't as hard, and it wasn't as, thoughtful, and you could tell it just wasn't the same level. And it's like, okay, wait a second. If these guys could do this for me when I was a player, then I could probably do this for other people. So that's kind of what happened for him.
One thing I would say too, like I have parents saying to me, "Oh, my life is over. My kid's life is over. This COVID lockdown, we can't play. My life is over." And I try to go, this might be the best year you'll ever have. Like playing is the dumbest thing you can do. Like I watch some schedules people do and I go, when do you practice? Oh, we don't. Yeah, this is the worst thing. Now you can't play. Now you're forced to practice. You should be the strongest athlete you've ever been because you can lift weights like crazy. You can get in the best shape you've ever been in because you don't have to worry about playing. And like I work with 6 kids right now. I mean, they entertain me. I don't. But we do a stair routine and a jumping speed type of stuff, and we do it every day. And they're just getting better and better and better. Well, I do it every day. We do a couple times a week, but they're getting better and better and better. And you can see the improvement on them. But if they were playing right now, they would not be doing this because they're at practice with whatever, and they're learning, here's our offense, here's our defense. But instead now, they're learning to become better athletes. And I think every kid out there and parent should go, hey, there's a real silver lining in this lockdown. I'm not going to play down in Louisville, Florida, Atlanta, Dallas, Phoenix, Los Angeles, but I could work out every single day and get better and better and better. I think if we do have a season next year, we should see some of the best basketball players we've ever seen. Because
I think what you'll do is you'll see some kids who have taken this very seriously, and you'll see some kids that have not taken it very seriously, and it'll be very definitive. This kid put in the time. This kid clearly did not put in the time. I remember when that kid was better than that kid. That's not the case anymore. And so the thing about basketball is it's an honest sport. If you put in the time, you can notice. And if you don't, it doesn't matter who you are. You can always notice that too. So anyway, thanks for joining us, Neil. I'm actually going to